Welcome, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram to the Gruber Morning Show. We have some more items to discuss and share with you. And again, as always, we actually determine our agenda and our content based on suggestions from our viewers. So you let us know what you would like us to dive into more, what you would like us to talk about, and any questions that you may have regarding EVs in general. One of the first things that I have for you is apparently owning a Tesla is getting easier and more comfortable, according to this article. The manufacturer now sends push notifications to replace certain items in the car. And according to CEO Elon Musk, he personally took care of improving the work of the company's service centers. In recent months, the number of improvements have been noticed, and apparently customer satisfaction is beginning to trend upward. What they're doing also is setting their sights on enabling same-hour service as often as possible, and that's probably one of the biggest complaints about Tesla is inability to reach them and long lead times. You know, we can't fix your window regulator problem even though your window's down for a couple of weeks or so. So this is a worthwhile goal. They have also released software updates that include new and extremely useful features for the owner and the company in the way of self-diagnostics. So here's a Tesla owner that said that he had received an interesting notification from Tesla. Apparently they sent him a push notification to replace his 12-volt battery in his car. The vehicle did a self-diagnosis, identified the problem, a pending problem, and informed him that his 12-volt battery in his car might soon become inoperable. So proactive maintenance like this will prevent any kind of downtime. So anyway, it looks like Tesla is beginning to improve with their customer service, which is wonderful. Price increases. On August 9th, a group from Dearborn, Michigan, Ford, announced an increase in the price of the F-150 Lightning, the electric version of the iconic F-150 pickup. The price increases were between $6,000 and $8,500 depending on the model. The base price of the F-150 Lightning model, year 2023, climbed from $47,000 and $97,000 compared to approximately $40,000 and $92,000 for model year 2022. And these prices obviously exclude taxes, delivery, and other charges. The reasons they cited for these price increases were higher cost of raw materials. They did add that these new prices will not affect customers who have already ordered the vehicle. And to explain this decision, the car maker said cost of developing the battery has risen sharply. In fact, the cost of battery development has more than doubled since coronavirus, according to a research firm, Alex Partners. This increase in cost is due to disruptions caused to supply chains by the pandemic and the soaring prices of raw materials following the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. It sounds like the other car manufacturers will soon follow suit, and anybody that manufactures anything typically has to pass on any cost increases to their customers. So brace yourself. It looks like the cost of vehicles is going to continue to go up. Do we have any questions so far?
Yeah, we got a question on YouTube.
On YouTube, okay.
What are the main differences between partial and full premium interior package for Teslas?
So what are the differences between a partial and a full premium package in a Tesla? Well, it would, of course, be any upgrades, interior upgrades. In the Tesla Roadster, for example, they had the vanilla version seats and interior, and then there was what they called the executive leather option, which cost quite a bit more. You know, the manufacturers are going to give you extras if you would like to increase the price of the vehicle.
Okay.
So here's an interesting article from Quora. Why is Elon Musk's Tesla demanding removal of videos showing Tesla cars mowing down child-sized mannequins? Didn't Elon claim he believed in free speech? Well, again, free speech is kind of a subjective term. There are some boundaries even with free speech. You know the old saying, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Create a stampede and people get injured. The primary reason that Tesla has some heartache about this particular video that came out that showed a childlike mannequin being mowed down by a Tesla, they claim that the video was faked. Multiple people tried to reproduce it with full self-driving, and the car just simply never hit the child mannequin. Allegedly, the guy who made the video deliberately set up 2 rows of cones so that the car could just steer around the child, which it would normally do if it couldn't stop. He also then showed the video at the lowest resolution that YouTube allows, and there's a reason for that. Apparently, he had autopilot won't brake if you're pushing down on the accelerator pedal. And there was some incriminating evidence that he had doctored this. So allegedly, the claim is that he then reduced the resolution to a point where you couldn't really see that. And then he drove the car into the mannequin himself. Now, why anybody would do this, of course, is a mystery to most normal people who, you know, would never partake in something like this. But the video, of course, got a lot of traction. It went viral, and people became greatly concerned about the full self-driving capability within Tesla's vehicles. And of course, Tesla continues to improve their self-driving software, and it is actually becoming more and more robust and more useful. Here's an interesting side note. If you remember, California last month came out with a mandate that by 2035 they won't allow any more sales of ICE vehicles and internal combustion engine vehicles. And by 2030, this phase out should be occurring. It prompted us to actually work on a video about the grid. There's a lot of speculation. Will the grid in the United States be able to handle this rapid adoption of electric vehicles? Well, in coming days, this article says, Californians could potentially find themselves in the dark due to a heat wave that's currently hitting the state. And local authorities have declared a state of emergency, which means that power may be shut off in some places for 1 to 2 hours at a time. Apparently, California was already under flex alert until 9 p.m. when consumers were urged to reduce electricity usage, and some business and industrial customers had power turned off under their agreement with utilities. Of course, this is inconsistent with the mandate that was just recently instituted, that they won't allow any more internal combustion engine vehicles in California. So it looks like the grid problem is definitely something that is going to become more of an issue as time drags on. And does anybody have any questions about this, or perhaps some inputs? What has been your, what has your research brought to light? Sure, let's do some questions, you bet.
So we have some questions unrelated to the grid, but one of the ones that I saw over here on TikTok, what is the average life of a pack before issues arise?
Okay. It's a very popular question for those of you that may not have heard Jesse. What is the average life of a EV battery pack as it ages? And the simple answer is we really don't know yet. Our Gruber Motor Company service center sees the aberrations. We see the failed battery packs. We see the problems. But there are hundreds of thousands of cars out there that are not yet experiencing any kind of battery failures. A classic example is the Tesla Roadster, which released in 2008. Many of them still have original batteries and they're going strong. And Tesla, the original design engineers are amazed that these original battery packs are exceeding the 10-year life expectancy that they had thought they designed and built into the battery pack. So the simple answer is no one yet knows what a mass cell cylindrical lithium-ion battery pack lifespan is, but we're all anticipating that at some point there will be mass cell failures, and it may be like lemmings going into the sea when it finally occurs.
Okay, and then related to that, another one from TikTok. Is anything going to happen for the cost of battery replacement after years of use? It is expensive.
Yeah. In the last podcast, we spoke about the proliferation of 4680 cells and the cost reductions that manufacturers are seeing that are producing these cells. It's less labor intensive, and the projected cost of a battery pack in that last discussion was around $5,500 to $6,000. Compared to a 18650 cell type battery pack currently in the Model S's and Model X's, almost 7,000 cells, a lot more connecting points. And those batteries, to get one replaced today with a new battery, is around $22,000 from Tesla. So the expectation is that as the technology continues to improve, the cost of the batteries will be one of the most rapid declines in the EV world. And it really has to be, because proportionately speaking, a $22,000 battery in a $30,000 to $35,000 car is a disproportionately high percentage of cost. Unlike an internal combustion engine car, where there's a lot of cost spread across a large number of components in the internal combustion engine vehicle.
Okay, and we got Oscar on YouTube wants to know your opinions on the Cybertruck. How well do you think the Cybertruck will do in North America, and will it outsell the Ford Lightning?
Will the Cybertruck, how will it do in North America, and will it outsell the Ford Lightning? You know, the Cybertruck is kind of an anomaly. When it came out, no one expected them to come out with something that looks like the Cybertruck. And the adoption and the pre-orders proved that people were really looking for something different. Currently, Ford does have an advantage with being one of the first to release a pickup truck, as does Rivian. But there are a lot of pre-orders for that Cybertruck, and whenever we go to any kind of shows, that's usually the topic of discussion. Now, what will the reliability, the performance, all the rest of that be with the Cybertruck? If you've watched Tesla's trajectory, they do a pretty good job with anything that they manufacture and build. So I expect nothing less from them. I think the Cybertruck will be an awesome vehicle, and it will live up to or even exceed expectations.
Okay, and we got one more from YouTube before we jump into another article. And then this is the one that we get a lot. Will Gruber expand to the San Francisco Bay Area, where there's a very high density of Teslas?
All right, will Gruber Motor Company expand to the Bay Area, where there's a high density of Tesla vehicles and other EVs? Our ability to scale at the present moment is constrained by a number of factors. We are reemerging with our new service center. It is about 95% done. The other problem that you have in scaling anything like this is it's such a new technology, such a new business venture, that even finding people and staff and knowledgeable, trained people is extraordinarily difficult. So at the present moment, we're going to continue to expand and grow in Phoenix, Arizona, and we'll revisit that at some point in time and see where it makes sense to scale and replicate what we do here.
Okay, well, we got one more from when we were having technical issues last week.
Yeah.
Corey wants to know, he said he was on the other day and he asked about the Steinbauer mod for Tesla. He didn't see if we addressed that or not. I don't think we saw that question during those technical issues.
You know, I think we saw it, but at the time, I don't know what the Steinbauer mod is. And I believe it had to do with chips, is that right? What we'll need to do in order to do justice to answering any of those types of questions is I'm going to have to research that and then get back with you, which we'll do.
But that isn't something we've run into in our shop.
Not at this point, no. We've not run into that.
Okay, yeah, if you want to pull up the next article, I'm going to pull a couple other questions.
Okay. The notion of battery swaps appears to be gaining some momentum again. A company in China called NIO is actually building battery swapping stations. And Tesla tried it for a very brief period of time. I remember a shareholders meeting where Elon was standing up on stage. They drove a Model S out onto the stage while Elon was saying, watch how fast we can swap this battery. And there must have been a legion of people down below the stage floor that swapped out this battery in something like 90 seconds flat. There had been some attempts since then to create this or to play on this business model. One of them was a company called Better Place, which went through a $1 billion bankruptcy not too long ago. But their claim to fame was, starting in Israel, was to do battery swapping as a way to recharge electric cars. And despite billions of dollars spent on speeding up battery electric vehicle recharging technology, the process is still hopelessly slow compared with refueling at an ICE engine gas station. You can be in and out in 5 minutes and have a full tank of gas. So, most recently, the Chinese are playing with this battery swap philosophy. It doesn't make sense for everyone, but definitely for fleet vehicles, where you have to have a rapid recharge time, taxi cabs, for example, police departments. The Europeans are also looking into it, and one of the main problems is the lack of standardization. If EV batteries were standardized, then a company like Better Place could actually service a broad range of customers. But typically what they have to do is focus on just one brand because there is no such thing as propulsion battery standardization. Everybody makes their batteries different. They talk to them differently. They have different CAN signals and software that communicates with the safety systems in the batteries. So it's going to be a daunting challenge to create this battery swapping capability, although from a logistics standpoint, it makes much more sense than sitting at even a supercharger for 20 minutes or half an hour while you're on a trip trying to squeeze in as much vacation time as you can.
Now, was there an image for this one you wanted to pull up or no?
There's an image of the NIO swap facility. And if you can put that up on the screen.
Well, you need to pull it up on your computer so I can show them.
Okay, all right. Let me see if I can go back here. There are some Chinese auto manufacturers. Let me just go into that quickly. NIO and Geely are developing this capability. And the goal is to establish 24,000 swapping stations across China by 2025, compared to about 1,400 right now. All right, so let's give our viewers a visual on what this charging station looks like. There we go. Can you see it? Doesn't look very impressive. It looks kind of like a double type C container, not very large.
And so it's just like a car wash, right? You drive in one end and then drive out the other. They just swap your battery in a couple minutes.
Precisely. One of the things that that the company that went bankrupt, Better Place, had a difficult time with, These batteries are not inexpensive. We're looking at $30,000 a pack. And then you have them sitting on a shelf, and you have a certain amount of decline and degradation that is going on. So, and again, one of the fundamental reasons that they went bankrupt was they really expected that the automakers would build vehicles that are compatible with this battery swapping technology. But so far, only Renault has done so. Any questions about that, or feedback, or inputs?
Yeah, I mean, we have Corey on YouTube seems to know about that. He says that Neo company is very open to licensing their swap tech to other companies, much like Tesla is open to licensing their charging connector. But then, yeah, I mean, we have some other unrelated questions. You want to get to those, or you want to keep going?
Sure. Let's do some questions, and then we'll continue with the agenda.
Well, we actually had another statement I think that you could relate to here, Pete. It says, I think it's concerning how we need way more EV mechanics than we have.
Yeah, good point. For those of you that may not have heard, it's concerning how we need many more EV mechanics than we have access to or have available. The last time we looked at that statistic, there were 780,000 auto mechanics in the United States alone. And the feeling clearly is that the majority of them will not be able to pivot and migrate into this new type of repair because they're really used to working with mechanical objects and fuel systems. To work on an EV requires a set of different skills which actually border on software and electronics, especially if you're going to be an independent shop that doesn't have the luxury of going in a parts room and pulling whatever subassemblies you may need to fix a car. In the independent world, we oftentimes have to repair that board or that battery management system or battery safety management board or the power electronics module or the inverter. It goes on and on. There are a lot of electronics in an EV. So the type of skills that we need are generally not found in one individual because three distinct skills come to mind. You have the mechanical skills, the ability to do wrenching, which of course all 780,000 of them have. Then you have software experience, whether that's using user-friendly software like Toolbox or getting down into the nitty-gritty with Linux and working in the CAN signals. And then you have electronics. Oftentimes, we go right into the board on the battery modules, and we change transistors, chips, chokes, diodes, resistors, you name it. And that requires a special skill, especially now that there's such a degree of miniaturization with surface mount components on these boards. So I don't know what the solution is, but we're going to quickly have to resolve it. And I believe that the future is going to be self-diagnosing cars and a level of AI in transportation or in the vehicles that will actually identify the fault. And then it goes to a service center and you have a lower level tech that just swaps out the components that the AI suggested.
So that goes into this question I just saw on TikTok. Do battery cells have any traceability information embedded in them?
Okay, so do battery cells have any traceability embedded in them? No, they are not that sophisticated.
Do you think we'd need something like that to reach that AI point that you're talking about, where everything has like an embedded information tracker kind of system in it?
Well, yes, it would be nice. For example, the type of work we do on finding and isolating resistive cells. We have 2 roadsters on a lift now. Just yesterday, both of them were dead because of 1 resistive cell in each car out of almost 7,000 cells. It would be nice if the battery management systems were able to connect to every single cell in that car and then give a status report or some feedback about its condition. Instead, because of cost and logistics, worst case is 69 cells are connected in parallel, and when you connect a battery in parallel, they all look the same. So finding that 1 resistive cell becomes a needle in a haystack. That's one of the things, fortunately, that we've perfected.
Yeah, and that's kind of our, our claim to fame. Nobody else can do that, right?
Well,
Finding those cells and knowing how to snip them.
yeah, we've not found anybody that's been able to do it at the level that we're doing it. Let's put it that way.
Okay,
And
and then
Tesla certainly doesn't do it. They don't do that level of repair at the service centers. For them, it's far more cost effective to do module swapping or component swapping, like large batteries.
yeah, full battery swaps. Staying with that service question, Darren asks on YouTube, do car dealerships see you as the enemy because they won't be able to make as much money servicing EVs?
You know, I think that car dealerships have so many potential threats. I'm not sure they're singling out anyone at this point. The biggest threat that they have to survival is service. The car dealers don't make money on selling cars. They make all their money on service. And there are two things coming together. They don't have the skills at the local service centers to work on these EVs. And secondly, EVs require less maintenance. So there are a lot of existential threats to the whole car dealer network program.
All right, and then I'm gonna give a couple of shout outs. We got Ravid, maybe? I don't know. I'm sorry about that. It says hello from Israel on TikTok.
Hello, Robin from Israel.
We got Milan said earlier, thanks for sharing your knowledge from Serbia. And then we have JP saying good morning from Montreal. And there was one
JP from
more.
Montreal. We have someone from Serbia. We're going to talk about Serbia in a moment here.
And we got Martin saying hi from Sweden as well.
Martin from Sweden. Well, thank you for joining us, all of you.
And then I was going to ask Richard, we got anything on Instagram coming in over there?
There was just a comment about Tesla service in Germany not being the greatest. And then we had a gentleman near the beginning asking us what we thought about the fully charged show in San Diego.
Don't know about the fully charged show, but I can address the service.
So you want to repeat that because Richard doesn't have a mic.
Okay. So the service show in San Diego, you were saying?
We got a comment on Tesla servicing.
Right.
Not the greatest.
Right. Well, the first thing that I would say to the Germans is
Hold on,
regarding
repeat
service.
that because nobody heard what he just said.
Okay.
So the question is, so I'll just repeat it for YouTube, but you need to repeat it for TikTok and everybody. There seems to be an issue with service in Germany.
All right. There seems to be an issue with service in Germany, comparatively speaking. My comment to that is, in Germany, there are mature auto manufacturers that have had literally decades of ability to perfect not only the vehicles, the quality, but also service. What we have now is a very disruptive new layer of transportation manufacturers coming into the fray who have not had decades of experience perfecting anything. They're barely able to create vehicles that are living up to and exceeding expectations, and that's their primary focus. Another thing that you have to consider, any company that grows rapidly is going to have some frayed edges. I mean, Tesla going from, 200-300 employees 14 years ago to over 100,000. There are a whole bunch of different cultures that came into that company, and developing a cohesive unit, value system, and culture is very difficult when you grow that rapidly. So I guess my advice to the Germans is reset your expectations. For a while, the EVs are not going to live up to your mature auto manufacturer, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Porsche. But enjoy the vehicles for what they are, that they are an improvement on the old traditional ICE vehicles, and you're just not going to get a stellar level of service until these processes mature.
All right, we got a question, a little bit off topic, but somebody wants to know on TikTok, what do you think of hydrogen fuel cells?
All right, that question comes up often. What do we think of hydrogen fuel cells? You know, it's definitely a technology. It's definitely in play. There are some articles that were coming out just within the last couple of weeks that Toyota, I believe, is focusing back into that. It's tough to say where the market is going to go because as the cost of certain materials comes down, and it will because of mass production, especially batteries, at some point in time, the tipping point may be that the alternative fuel type transportation methods like hydrogen will no longer be cost effective. But in the meantime, my advice is knock yourself out. Anything that stops this global warming and the carbon emissions is a benefit to the planet.
Yeah, and you'll see some of that in our grid video as well coming up. And do you want to move on to, you have another article to talk about?
I do. This is an interesting one. Talking about the increase in EVs and in traditional vehicles, a number of supply chain shortages, the current chip shortage, have made all new automobiles very expensive, even in this cutthroat market. And the EVs seem to be out to reach the middle class consumers. But here's an interesting stat. The average cost of an electric vehicle, according to this article by Finance Buzz, is $56,437, so $56K. Whereas the average price of a hybrid vehicle climbed to $33.3K. And the price of a gasoline-powered car, on average now, is $42.8K. Kelley Blue Book is a little bit more aggressive in their price projection for EVs, and they claim that the EV prices surged to a record $66,000, actually $10,000 more than Finance Buzz. Unfortunately, with things like supply chain shortages, again, manufacturers have to pass on costs, and they pass them on to the consumers, the people that are buying the product. There is no other option, unless, of course, you're the federal government and you can print money, which none of us out here can do. Have an interesting article here. There's a picture on my screen, Jesse, if you can bring that up. It's the Corvette C8.
Yep, I got that up.
Okay. Apparently, Christian von Koenigsegg, who is the founder of Koenigsegg Hypercars in Sweden, was at the Monterey Car Week, and he was sharing some information about how impressed he was with the Chevrolet C8 Corvette, which was released in summer of 2019. This car has a sub 3-second 0 to 60 run with a V8 and a 6-figure price tag. What Christian said is, what a bang for the buck. And he said he wasn't he explained he wasn't just impressed by C8's price, but he also joked about feeling relieved that his cars could still outrun it. Now, when we talk about his cars, his company builds anywhere from $1.7 million cars up to $3 million. The cheapest one is the $1.7 million Gemera. And the demand for that, he says that almost all 300 are already sold out. But he goes on to add that GM can do that for that kind of money with that level of performance is mind-blowing and good for them, and it's good for their customers. By the way, on a side note, we worked with Christian about 4 years ago or so. He has a Tesla Roadster, and he ended up having a PEM problem, which is not uncommon. There's some design issues, and sometimes the PEMs blow transistors if the engineering problems aren't resolved. So he ended up shipping us his power electronics module, which is a large inverter box that converts DC to AC. And we worked on it. We repaired it. We ran into a problem, and this again gets back to part shortages. What we needed that we didn't have was a tiny isolation transformer, about the size of a dime. And it took us about 6 months to finally find one and be able to finish off his PEM. So it kind of goes to reinforce the risks that you have by owning a car that many of the parts are no longer in production. Since then, we did get parts. We have more parts for the Roadster, but at that time, his PEM was here for about 6 months or so. But I found it interesting that a guy that's building these multi-million-dollar hypercars actually would own a Tesla Roadster. And more than likely, it's a combination of things. He enjoys the car, and probably some reverse engineering may have been involved in that.
That's good to own a piece of history too, you know?
Yeah, very much so.
Start of the EV revolution. Okay, so you want to do that? Are you still going with that article, or you want to get some more
No,
questions?
we're all done. I'll get another question out of the way.
All right, so we had a couple of questions from the same person on TikTok, kind of wanting our opinion on what we think about Tesla designing their new cars where you can't access the battery.
Okay. The question is the new 4680 packs, the ones with the large lithium-ion batteries that look like the size of Coke cans. And what do we think about those and the apparent difficulty in repairing them? We are reserving judgment at this point because the term impossible comes up often in our world. And our job as innovators is to find ways to make something impossible, not only probable, but quite realistic to repair, which is exactly what we've been doing with the earlier platform Tesla cars. I think we'll solve the problem. We're not going to see a lot of them initially because those cars are all under warranty right now, and an owner isn't going to bring a 4680 battery pack car to our service center if they can get free service at the Tesla Service Center. But once we start getting them, like Sandy Munro did and did reverse engineering, it's exactly what we'll do, and we'll figure out a way to repair those.
All right, so we got a couple more people here. Assad on TikTok says hello from Texas, and then we have another person from Long Island, New York. Says Long Island, New York in the house, and then we have Mr. Max Backbone says good morning, Pete from Germany. So
Okay.
just want to let everybody know we see you. Appreciate you joining us from all over the world.
So we have Germany, Texas, and Long Island in the United States. Welcome.
Okay, and so this one is from YouTube, from Michael. It wants to know, how dangerous will older battery packs become? As the packs get older and have more high resistance cells, do you think laws will be passed requiring safety inspections of the batteries?
Okay. The question there is, for those of you that may not have heard it, is will there be safety concerns as the traditional lithium-ion cylindrical cell mass cell battery packs age? One of the things that the manufacturers have been doing, and Tesla really led the charge on this, there is an enormous amount of safety mechanisms built into these large battery packs. In fact, in the early Tesla Roadster, they even took a smoke detector, the kind that you have in your house, and parked that inside the battery pack. All of this was part of an interlock system so that if any of those devices triggered a safety issue, it would shut down the battery pack. We do not believe that aging battery cells is going to create any kind of an additional safety problem because of the BMS and the BMB boards, or the battery safety management systems in these vehicles.
All right, and we had another person that Richard just showed me on Instagram saying hi from the Nevada Gigafactory.
Oh, from Nevada Gigafactory. Okay, we have a Tesla employee.
All right, and we just had a question come in on YouTube from Darren. Are the batteries going to keep getting bigger? Will that make repairability easier?
Fair question. Will the batteries get bigger? Actually, the opposite direction is the goal. If you think about it, in a Tesla Model S, you have a fairly heavy bloated car because of that 1,200-pound battery pack. Now, where they placed it gives it enormous advantages because of that low center of gravity. But still, the goal with DC plant systems or DC energy storage is to miniaturize, to continue to bring down the footprint. And current levels of development, having a 1,200-pound box inside a car seems really kind of silly and absurd. I think the future is going to be very small DC plant systems that will not be as, just will not take up as much space in the car, and of course reduce the weight, which translates directly into performance.
All right, and we get this one every time. Why the sunglasses, Pete?
Oh, back to the sunglasses question. Well, you're just going to have to stay tuned because we are going to do a huge video expose why I wear sunglasses, but it's just not ready yet.
Okay, and then for Tom on TikTok, he wants to know where can he get notifications that we are live? Is there a page where he can get the dates? So you want to go over subscribing on YouTube and turning on notifications, and then our dates?
Sure. For those of you that are anxious to get early notification when a podcast is about to be launched here, our podcasts are Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30 Mountain Standard Time in the United States. And that's been a fairly consistent program.
I think right now we're the same as Pacific, right?
We're the same as Pacific Time, yes.
Yeah.
And for the YouTube viewers, turn on your notification bell. And each time we launch a video, you will be notified that something new has come out. We have a schedule for the Tesla Roadster Gallery series, which we still have quite a few left to present. And that comes out every Wednesday. I think last Wednesday we missed it, but we're going to get better about staying to schedule with that.
Well, we just released that one a little bit late. It came out yesterday. So if you guys want to go check that out, we posted that yesterday.
It came out yesterday, correct. And this was an over-the-top roadster. It actually was commissioned by an owner for an interior with burl wood. Tesla had never done anything like this before. And the exterior had to have the look and feel of the 60s MG cars with that darkish hunter green. What amazed us was that Franz von Holzhausen, who I'm sure in 2008 had many other things to work on, including getting ready for their second act, the Model S, because had they continued with the Roadster, they would have gone bankrupt. But he actually spent the time with his design team to create the special Roadster for this customer, which really speaks to the culture and values at Tesla. It's a one-of-a-kind, and it's just a beautiful car on the inside. We'll be featuring other Roadsters like this each Wednesday morning. So there's a luxury car manufacturer that's switching to hybrids. And they're offering one last gas-powered stunner. You'll never believe who this is, Bugatti.
You want to show this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a company that has been around for over 100 years. In fact, one of our Roadster owners owns a 1931 Bugatti in France, who he has a unique green color that he had his Roadster painted. But the other interesting thing was apparently Bugatti merged with Rimac, which is a Serbian company, started in 2009. And so Bugatti is a 112-year-old company, and Rimac, the startup, since 2009, acquired 55% stake, and now it's called Bugatti-Rimac. So cars from the two brands will be badged separately, but future Bugattis will use Rimac's high-performance electric drivetrains. And then interestingly enough, Porsche also has a stake. They took the remaining 45% stake in Bugatti Rimac on behalf of Volkswagen, who retains its 24% share in the Rimac group. So it looks like there's a lot of acquisition going on. But it's fascinating that the Croatian EV startup Rimac was actually able to purchase a 112-year-old company and take controlling interest. And we're all looking forward to the types of hypercars that they'll be able to create now that we've got the Bugatti DNA combined with the electric drivetrains in the Rimac hypercar. It should be one hell of a car. Okay. Do we have any final questions? I think that was my last agenda item here.
You want to
Okay.
come over here and ask it
Yeah.
into the mic? So we got Richard coming over here right now, and then I have one more, and we'll wrap it up.
All right, so we've got one. Greetings from Belgium. What have you studied, and are you a former employee of Tesla? So I think they're asking, how did you get all this knowledge? Did you work at Tesla? What's that story look like?
Okay. A question for those of you here. What is my background and how did I become knowledgeable in EVs? I'll try to make it short. Ever since I was a kid, before my teens, I always took things apart, much to the chagrin of my mother, who ended up with a lot of broken stuff as a result. I was always naturally curious about mechanical things and electronic things, and I was fortunate to be able to go to a high school trade school, very rare in the state of New York, and we spent half days in a trade program, and which you were able to select. I selected electronics. And back then in the 60s, it was repairing television sets and radios, tube-type radios, and phonographs and tape recorders and on and on. But anyway, that was my start in electronics, was fascinated by it, and then moved to Phoenix and joined a company called Digital Equipment Corporation. I always wanted to learn how computers work because I had the electronics nailed down. And my 10 years of digital gave me a strong background in computer and software. Now, then fast forward a bit, I got into muscle cars, enjoyed rebuilding and restoring those, and in 2013, I got my first battery electric vehicle, a Tesla Roadster, and began to realize that suddenly I had merged two passions for car and passion for electronics in this one vehicle. And within a few months, we realized that we've been in the Tesla repair business all along, since we repair critical power equipment. And it's the same technology as to what is in the Tesla vehicles. So I have never worked for Tesla, but we certainly work a lot with Tesla. They're a strong partner, and it is evolving very nicely, and really enjoying working with Tesla these days.
All right. So we got one more question, and then we'll just do an outro here. And for everybody listening, sorry if we didn't get to your question. Make sure to bring those on Thursday morning when we come back. But this last question, how long do you think a Model 3 2170 pack will last? I think we still have at least 3 or 4 years till we even see those off warranty, right?
We still have some time, yeah, before they start trickling in out of warranty. You know, in the world of life predictions for lithium-ion battery packs, we just don't know yet. We don't have the data to really give us a feel for what the life of these batteries is. Currently, they're exceeding all expectations, which is, of course, a good thing. But I'm sure we'll find out at some point.
All right, you want to go ahead and wrap up and let people know again the dates and times and stuff?
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We are live every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 8:30 Mountain Standard Time. We release videos throughout the week. We have our Tesla Roadster gallery video every Wednesday. And we also work on some blockbuster videos, which one of them currently is, will the grid be able to support this rapid EV adoption? So make sure to check us out on all these other platforms. We appreciate your contribution and joining us for these sessions. And again, we will take questions and tailor the next agenda to answer some of the questions that we weren't able to get to in this session. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.